Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining today. We are talking about unleashing the power with join the remarkable story of a power forward's triumph over illiteracy and educational success. You're here with me, TSL Daily, Candy, the security lady Daily, and I also have Dr. John Mack. The focus of this particular stream is going to be on literacy, illiteracy, and the power to move forward. Thank you so much for joining and welcome to the show. Hello, Dr. John L. Mack. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I'm good, but I'm getting gooder. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous. Life is good. I'm loving this journey and reading and literacy. John, that has been a staple of my life since before childbirth. My mother in the womb, she would rub her tummy and read to me every single day.
Oh,
And
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
yeah, so
So
I
you,
grew up
you
with that.
came in hearing the word and just like, I want to do that.
Exactly. And it's amazing how that can be a part of your life. I mean, things that
Oh,
start
yeah.
before childbirth can actually
Yes.
stay with you. And my mother asked the question. She didn't understand why my sister and my brother, they're not avid readers. I mean, they will read, but it's not. I mean, if you gave them a choice of picking up, going to place a game or to read, every time they'd be going to play the game or going to do anything but read. And then she realized
Anything but read.
she didn't read to them like she read to me. I was the firstborn, and she didn't do that with them like she did it with me. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting. And that tells a lot about, culturally where we are.
It
I
does.
grew up, I grew up, my punishment one year, I did something, I talked back to my mom. And so she put me on restriction for a year. Now, I was a pretty gregarious guy in the community, two brothers, two sisters. I'm in the middle. And I'm on restriction for a year. I couldn't go anywhere, talk on the phone. I mean, it was a pretty serious restriction. And she maintained it for a year. All I could do was go to school, go to church, and read.
Mm,
And
mm.
I'm an avid reader.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's crazy how it played out. And look at you. Now you've published. How many books have you published so far?
I have 20 plus published on my own. I've unpublished some of them. And then I've had helped another 250 aspiring authors to get published successfully
250.
and counting. Yes. I'm working right now with, I think there's 10 clients that we're working with at various stages. So we start, I can work with 5 a month and we break through. And then when those are dropping off, new ones are coming in. So this is the dream of my life to do what I'm doing now, help people get their story told well.
And I've been watching your journey for quite some time. I mean,
Oh,
like,
well,
it's been over a decade now that I've seen your journey. That I think we first met about 12, maybe 13 years ago or so.
it's been about that. I'm thinking at an event that you don't necessarily remember.
Oh, oh
You
yeah,
were
that
a
was about 20 years ago. I mean, that's a long time when you told me about that event. Because if it
yeah.
was that event, that was wow.
That was yeah, and I
Wow.
had went. It was up in St. Louis, and I was like, "This lady is pretty powerful." The security lady, and you had all your security devices. I remember one device that was like looked like a cat, but when if someone attacked you, you could put it in your hands and you. I remember, I was like, "Oh my!" I said, "That is pretty."
That
That
was me. Oh
that was you,
yeah. Wow.
definitely. And then we kind of connected inadvertently at another networking experience, and that's when I became a fan because guys, if you haven't heard our friend Miss Candy do a presentation, so I would do a presentation in English, and she would respond in fluent Spanish. That was just like almost like a song. I didn't hear understand a word you were saying, but I just loved the way you said it.
Oh, you are amazing. You are amazing. My hat goes off to you as well. Right back, boomerang, right back to you.
Correct.
So, Dr. Mack,
Now,
go ahead.
I was going to ask. I wanted you to tell the audience that it was inadvertent that we were kind of dressed like Twinkies today in the same color. Just well, like 5 minutes before it started, I said, "Oh wow, we're dressed in similar colors. That's awesome."
Right, guys,
And
great
but
minds
yeah,
think
well,
alike.
right, and you're on the other side of the world, and still we came up with the same convergence.
The same thing. The
Co-
angel looking out, you
Coincidence.
know?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna be
That's
quiet and let you lead this conversation.
Okay, well, it's going to be a cooperation here, working together, a collaboration, as you put it. And I'm glad you said that, or working together. There is one, let's see, where is it here? I want to find this. Okay, right here. Tell me a little bit before we get into you, because I want the audience to know more about you and who you are, Dr. John L. Mack, Johnny Mac, Magnificent Mack. But I want them to know, because you just mentioned collaboration. Now, this book right here, The Power of Collaboration. Tell us a little bit about what that's about.
That was an interesting book. We put together. There was a group of gentlemen that collaborated, and we decided there was so much activity online for women to come together and coalesce, but there was no real opportunities for men to do things that were connective and collaboration. So there was five of us. We wrote this book, The Power of Collaboration. Dr. George Frazier, it was a treasure for our community, did the forward to the book. Powerful book. So each of us gave a different perspective of our understanding of collaboration. And in that process, I created a brand new word that's in our lexicon now called collaboratunity. And that's where collaboration and opportunity meet. So often we find ourselves experiencing these collaboratunity, and if we're not prepared to take advantage of them, then they just kind of evaporate and go away from us. This book is still available on Amazon. Very, very powerful book. See, if you should have told me, I've got a copy of it here. Go ahead and talk, and I'll show the copy.
No, it's okay. They have the link right here. They can go ahead and click on look at the link right here that's scrolling through, guys. Look at right down here, and we have the link to this particular book. So take a look at that.
I always wanted to do that. Take advantage of the opportunity right down there.
Right down there, right? I love collaborations because you and I, we would have been together a long time, because as you previously mentioned, we've collaborated in business before, and we've done some things together, talking, networking, presentations, workshops, webinars. Wow, we've done a lot together, John. And working together today, right now, on this particular live stream, talking about Dean Tolson and his book, The Power Forward, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for collaborating. Actually, a friend of mine, he all the way in a distant world, I'm over here, like you mentioned, all the way on the other side of the world. He just happened to have Dean came to visit him, from what I understand. And while he was leaving, on a last minute, like very last minute, like, hey, I want you to meet this guy. I want you to meet this guy. So he introduced me to him. Now, at the beginning, I'm like, I wasn't that impressed. It's like, okay, NBA players, I know 100,000 of them, football players, athletes, I'm not impressed by just knowing an athlete.
Celebrity, oh my God, yeah.
Right, most people are like, oh my God, he's an NBA player, I want to meet him. He's an NFL player. Oh my gosh, like, they're human, okay? When he sat down and I'm speaking with him, and he's like, he's this really normal kind of guy, and he talked a little bit about his book, but I wasn't giving it a lot of energy, because I was more in tune with helping my friend to help him. And so it was the respect that my friend had for Dean Tolson that actually provoked me to buy the book, to support, because we need to support each other. When we see each other doing something, people think that it's gone, and everybody's equal and equality is perfect, and there's no racism, there's no bigotry, we live in this happy little world. I would love to think that. And there was a time in my life, John, where I did think that. I lived in a bubble, and I didn't think there was the racism that people talked about until something happened to me. And it's like, wow.
It was real. It hit right home. Yeah.
It hits home. Laws are changed because it hits home. There are senators that don't believe in helping anybody anywhere, but then like one senator, I remember his daughter got assaulted, and it was a bad assault. Then all of a sudden laws are changed. So things, when it hits home, it's a different story. Yes. So I went ahead and supported him. I wanted to support a man of our ethnicity, and got the book. John, oh my gosh.
Well, I've been following you as you're going through the chapters, and it's a remarkable story. And parenthetically, let me just share this. As an author, developer, as a get published strategist, my job is to pull a story out of a person. Many cases, people have the story already written. They don't know what the next steps is. But the real problem is that you have a story in you that you don't know how to tell. So from what I'm feeling, and I'm getting my copy of Power Forward, is that you were this he was able to take his story and share not only the horrible and bad times that he went through, but some of the incredible transformation that occurred. So this is a story that goes beyond the pale. One quick thing is that as a as a I was working at a proprietary school in California. One of my potential students came in, and he was had been through university, prolific basketball player, jumping out the gym, and he got past his eligibility, and they found out that he couldn't read. He couldn't. They already knew he couldn't read or write, but they socially promoted him to the point where now, as a senior, no longer having any eligibility, this guy is out there and he can't read. He has no potential for the future. So he sued the university and won. And that's the similar story to what you're telling here. Although Dean didn't sue the story, he went on and took his basketball prowess to the next level. He went professional. He's a pro player, and dadgummit, he knew, and everybody around him knew that he was illiterate. That's a powerful story to come back from that. The shame, the blame, and the whole game of it all. And to find yourself in a position where, hey, you got to go back to school as a 50 or 60, come on, that's a powerful story. But how many people are living that right now? And that shame is underneath the table. And they're trying to pretend, they put on a nice shirt and tie, groom themselves, looking good, smelling good, but broken on the inside.
Mm.
Don't get me started.
Okay, I think we got you started.
Yeah, let me take it down a gear.
Right? What you just said, broken on the inside.
Yes.
Broken on the inside, and that. Oh gosh, that can be such a devastating thing, and it can take a person one way or the other, either to being super devastated and they give up to the point of suicide, or can soar to different heights and just take that power that is in there, that emotion, and move it forward, propel it forward. The collaboration, bring it together. Guys, get that book, get The Power of Collaboration. If you haven't had a collaboration with somebody, please get that book. Again, the link is down here. It is a influencer link. It is an affiliate link. So know that the links that are associated with this video, guys, that I do get a small commission off of that. I want to make sure that you are totally understanding. I'm being totally transparent with this.
That's not an issue. You should, because now you're helping to promote the different causes. And I think that hopefully before the show is over, you're going to have a link to Dean's book, because that's what we're here to promote today, and talk about a story. And you mentioned that whole aspect of suicide. I'm a member of the Mega Sci-Fi fraternity, and as I'm the healthcare chairman for my local chapter. My birth chapter, I just got word that a young man that just was initiated last year, brilliant student getting ready to graduate this year as an engineer from the University of Nebraska, and all these demons he was dealing with on the inside, stuff that on the outside he looked like he was marvelous. He was clean cut. He was, everything was working right for him. He jumped out of a building and killed himself because he wasn't prepared to deal with the lack that he was experiencing in his life. Dean finally looked at his own life and said, hey, here I am, a grown man, a professional player, making millions of dollars, and all of this is going forward, that my whole community, my whole circle either didn't know or hid it well enough that now, as a grown man, I can't read. It took an intestinal fortitude and discipline so incredible for him to say, hey, I'm going to re-enroll in school. I'm going to get the help. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to learn how to read. He not only learned to read, but are you telling me that he received a master's degree, magna cum laude? I mean, he wasn't playing with it. He was reading better than anybody in the class.
Oh yeah. And what's crazy about his story, several things are crazy about it, but what's really one of the many things that's so interesting to me is where a lot of people try to hide their illiteracy. He never tried to hide it. They didn't care. They saw money, in my opinion. from reading this book. They saw money signs. They saw a man that was a powerful forward. They saw a man that could move. They saw, when they saw him as a child, that he was the largest person and tallest person in his class, and that he could play ball. They embraced that. They embraced that, and they wanted to have that name made. How many people give up their souls to get that money, to chase after that dollar, to do any type of any whatever they can do? And he wasn't even trying to. All he knew was, as a young child, from the time I think he was like 5 years old, he just knew he wanted to play ball. And one of the things it says in the first chapter, one of the first chapters, is he met Wilt Chamberlain. And now I've heard of Wilt Chamberlain. I'm not a big sports star unless it's ballroom dancing or shooting pool.
Nobody that I know.
You know, you tell me the NBA. Wait a minute, hold on. The NBA, that's not football, that's basketball. Okay, you know. So they when I heard that name, I'm like, I know that guy. But the way he writes, like you just talked about, the way you help people to bring a story out, the way he wrote it, I'm like, so this is Wilt Chamberlain. Okay, now Wilt Chamberlain was way back, how many decades ago? But the way he brought the name Wilt Chamberlain
alive today.
He brought it alive today. And I was right there when he met him. And I saw Wilt Chamberlain pick him up, and I saw him swing him around. And, you know, I saw him do all the wonderful things he did to make him feel good as a child. And I was right there. It's like, how cool is that? And then he moves forward. And then there's certain things he didn't want. He had to make a choice whether or not to get a beating with a paddle by the principal because of something he did. You got to read the book, guys, to find out what he did. But to get that and he wasn't going to.
We're not going to tell you the whole story. We want you to buy the story. Yeah. Because we want to support the author.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he's got a lot to say there. You know, Candy, that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because people in this situation, because of the shame and the finger pointing and the blame and just the reality, it creates a mental health crises within. You're fighting on the inside, where people know that you can't read. You know people are looking on you, and even if they accept it, it's a stigmatization that is just unbearable to the individual. I'm working with a young man right now that played professional. Well, he was ready to play professional football. He was a standout during his time of college, Heisman Trophy contender. Senior year, he gets hurt. And when he got hurt, he had a good senior year, but it wasn't great. He thought he'd be first or second round draft pick. So all these people are at the house on the draft day, and he was like, well, I might go third round, because he ends up not getting called at all. And when he gets a call a couple of weeks later to come in as a walk-in tryout, he goes there and bipolar kicked in. He didn't sleep the entire training camp. So, of course, now physically he's not at his maximum because he's not rested. From that point on, they sent him home because he was not up to par for the camp. Well, the rest of his last 40 years, he's been in and out of institutions dealing with his bipolar because it was triggered. So I think we have to look at the whole mental health aspect of it. This is this is a call to action. It's a cry for help. And then the dean is saying it was answered in his life when he got the commitment and the discipline to say, hey, regardless of what people say, how they look at me, I don't care. It's more important for me to get better, to get healed, to get well, than to pretend like I'm okay. And that took a lot of guts. I'm proud of it.
Okay, I love the way you just put that as a mental health crisis in the area, and put it into point of taking the guts to do that and looking at that as an issue that needs to be resolved, as something I haven't looked at it at that perspective before. So tell me, to answer this, John.
Yes,
And by the way, guys, for those of you who are watching and listening and tuning in, even if you're on the replay, down here, you can see right there is the link, Power Forward by Dean Tolson. Get the book today. The link is right here, scrolling past the screen. So make sure you take a look at that. With the children today, because so many of our youth, they see on TV, they see here on the radio, they see on the YouTubes and the Googles and the Snapchats and Twitters and all the social media that people are getting out of school and leaving school and not going to college and not educating themselves even on their own to get that that basketball name, to get that money, to get that fame, to get that fortune, and literacy goes out the window. What do you feel about that? How do you what do you say to not only the youth, but what do you say to the parents? Because sometimes the parents push that on and don't see the importance of literacy. I've learned you have like two blocks of parents. The one block of parents, they don't care. You're not playing sports. Don't you dare touch a football. You're not going on the street. Nope, you're not playing any street ball. You're not even associated with those people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it is all about the books, period. Then you have the other set of parents that's forget about them books. We need to make this money. I'm tired of living in the ghetto. I'm tired of doing this. I'm tired of doing that. Go after your money, baby. You're good. You're gonna make the NBA. What do you say to that whole thing? Because it really does start, like it mentions in Dean's book, from childhood.
Candy, everything, it really emanates from that childhood experience. And ultimately, that childhood experience is supposed to be wonderful. It's supposed to be nurturing. You're supposed to be the food and the nutrition necessary for your body to operate at its maximum should be available to you. And food deserts where good fresh food and wholesome food is available should not exist. There should be not a food desert, but a food oasis where everything is there. And a child in this nurturing environment, that parent with priority parenting, that's something, a whole nother book and story. But priority parenting prioritizes getting that child ready to get into life and succeed at its optimum. So it's like pulling a bow back. And so you're preparing that child to do what they were designed to do, to graduate from high school, reading at grade level with no chemical addiction, no criminal diagnosis, no credit problems, no children. So when they graduate from high school, they're prepared to either go to college or into a career that will allow them, because of that foundation that their prioritized parenting gave them, they're prepared to become functional members of society. All too often, the two scenarios that you brought out brings an unbalance in the equation. The parent that is pushing their own dreams, visions, and goals onto that child you are trying to live your life through them. And so you're saying nothing matters. You got a great athletic ability. You go out there. We getting out the ghetto. So that pressure is put on the child. On the other end, the pressure of academic excellence, that balance between the two, where we understand that, yes, as parents, we're preparing our child, but we need to be cognizant of what their dreams are, what their goals are, what their passions are, and help develop that. So when they go into society, they're ready to be functioning members. Most of the issues we're facing in society today result from adverse childhood experiences where the parent either was not prioritizing their parenting responsibilities properly and let the child either go astray, or was so rigid that they were trying to escape when they got the opportunity to do so. So we're kind of in a flux. In between that, in the niche, the perfect scenario is that child is that the parent is nurturing the child. The parent is helping that child to discover who they are, what their gifts are, what their strengths and abilities are, and as a result, propel them to go in society and do well.
Wow.
That was a long answer for a short question.
No, it was a great answer, a very much needed answer. Dean's mother,
Okay.
I wish I could meet that woman. Oh, I wish I could meet that woman. I felt like I knew her right there in the book. The things that she went through with Dean, the things that she saw from the times he was chased by the gangs and getting shot at, and people trying to kill him at one point, and then he came down with an enfermedades. Yo, tú sabes, a veces yo hablo en español. Pero la gente que está mirando este video, a veces yo hablo en español. Y por favor, si tienes preguntas, tú puedes preguntarme. Okay, I'll get back to
Said the answer is yes.
He had this one, he came down with a medical issue, and my heart just fell. It was just like just crumbling inside. When my second born was born, he was going to die, 7 months old, And the doctor said he was. The doctor said, all the doctors, we had him in a special hospital, a specialty hospital in Dallas. And all, it was, I think, like 6 to 8 doctors. I don't remember. It was over
St.
7.
Jude,
No.
St. Jude of Children's.
Children.
Mhm.
And they said he wasn't going to live the night. He was there for quite some time. And they said he wasn't going to make it through the night. And everybody's telling me, you need to go home. No, I'm not leaving my baby. I will see him die. And to experience that as a mother, knowing that your baby's going to die in your arms, not going to make it through the night. And then God, that next morning, he was still there, and he's still alive. And it's
Oh,
like,
that's a long night.
and it's like, he's still alive. And then the next day, he was still alive. And he started picking up weight. And it was like, wow. So you have that feeling of your
Good
child,
job.
really brought back from the grave. And his mother was right by his bedside, encouraging him. And she said, baby, one thing she said was, baby, one more time. Just, and you hear her words and you feel her words.
Oh, yeah.
And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have a Dean Tolson to this day. And so when you talk about being nurtured and bringing up and preparing them for life, she still, at his age, at that point, was still preparing him for life. She never stopped. Is there a point, Dr. Mack, where a parent should let go and stop?
Well, the key is this. Your job is to instill the core values that are important to you. The core values of integrity, of decency, of ambition, positive. So when you take these core values and pour them into your children and they accept them, then great. But all too often the responsibility is not grained in them, because often parents are just people that accidentally were given the gift of raising a child. That wasn't their plan. They were just having fun and going through the natural course of life. And then all of a sudden it's like, what's this? This is, now I've got a bundle of joy. No, you have an 18 to 26-year responsibility. So your question was, is there some point where you just need to stop and let go and push and say, no, you're on your own? You want to teach them accountability and responsibility for themselves, and not to be lazy and to lay up on you and be entitled and think but at the same time, like my daughter, I have a set of twins. One of them was very, she was in school. She had a great attitude. She had a job, and she was just great. The other one wasn't working, bad attitude, not in school. And I wrote her a letter and said, you need to join the military so you can get direction and discipline in your life. She told me, I like cable TV too much. I'm out. 2 weeks later, the other one comes home and says, Dad, I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but I joined the Navy. I'm like, not you, her. The other one. Well, let's fast forward. Now both of them are accomplished in their arenas. The one that had a bad attitude, not working, not in school, went back to school, got 2 jobs, attitude improved to the point where just an amazing turnaround. Those are the types of things that the word says, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. Now, there was that point where there was that we had to pull them back in, and it's not letting go. You can't let go, but you have to, now you have a different role to play and a different way to bring them back into the fold. So that's so in answer to your question, because I'm looking at it holistically.
Right.
In answer to the question, I'm 69 years old. My children are in their 40s. I'm still dad. I still input to them and pour into them. And I realized last year that I thought I'd done a bang up job. I was beating my chest. I'm dad of the decade. Well, one of them came back and said, Dad, I had such a traumatic childhood experience. I'm in therapy. I'm like, what? And so I wasn't willing at that point to accept, hey, there's some things that you gave them some childhood experiences that even though you just poo-pooed it all, it wounded them. And the more affluence that you have, the the adverse childhood experience takes on a different demeanor. You know, if you're poor and impoverished, well, they're mad because you didn't provide them financial security. If you have financial security, they may be angry that you didn't give them the time and the nurturing them. There's always going to be a vacuum or a lack. So we can't beat ourselves up that we're not perfect parents. But if we're a prioritized parent, we're going to look and say, these are the priority issues that we have to follow and that we need to focus on. And I'm not perfect, and I know you ain't perfect yet either. But by the time you leave the house, you will probably be perfect, and I'll be still where I am. I'm just saying.
Right, right. Now, Dean, with the challenges overcome, because some of these challenges, they're as a child, and you can still have those challenges as you go through life and get older. Because I remember one of the fights that I got in as a child. I didn't know
You
any.
did not have.
I did, but I didn't know anything about fighting. I wasn't a fighting girl. I wasn't raised like that, and I was raised to turn the other cheek. And it doesn't matter how much they punch you in the face, you still get the energy to turn the other cheek. That I know, right, right, right. Well, that's another story within itself of how that negatively affected me. The Because I wasn't taught when you turn the other cheek, there needs to be something. It's like cleaning out your house. And the Bible talks about that as well. You clean out your house and you get rid of everything in there. But wait a minute, you got to fill it with something, or the demons are going to come back even more powerful with more force and more demons to take over because you have an empty house. So I wasn't taught what to do after you turn the other cheek. It's just turn the cheek. And it got to a point where it's like, no more. But during that turning the cheek process, before I learned no more, I remember the girl who I got in a fight with. Oh my gosh, she was the sweetest girl. She was a bad age, but she didn't do what she could have done to me. I mean, she could have obliterated me. I mean, obliterated.
She was physically bigger.
Oh yeah, by far, and stronger. And she had like 6 brothers. And yeah, they were all
So
older.
she was used to fighting.
Oh, she was used to fighting. But she didn't do that to me. She didn't even punch me, as a matter of fact. She just made sure that I didn't hurt her, which I couldn't have anyway. So, right? But what I learned through that was
it kind of reminds me of the cartoon where he's holding you in the head, and he just over.
That was her. That was her. That was her.
Sorry. I saw that scene. Yeah. I see a little old bitty girl up there just punching at some big girl. She just, would you stop? Life is funny.
And so I learned. Go ahead.
No, I was saying this. Life is funny. Sometimes the things that when you're in them, they are the most traumatic and dramatic thing that could possibly be happening. Right? But in reality, it's like, for real. Really?
Right, right. And so I brought up that story saying sometimes there are people that bully. You're going to get into fights. You're going to get in situations that push you into corners. When it comes to being focused and something like being illiterate, because I have known children to fight their way out of things just because, like you said, they don't want people to know what's really inside. And the actual fight that's coming out and the anger and the turmoil has nothing to do with what's going on. It has everything to do with that fight inside, like literacy. So many people get through school without being able to read a simple book.
Traumatic.
John, how do you work through that? And then tell me your feelings and thoughts about the school system, because it still exists. I've seen it personally. That just lets those kids pass. You just let them out. I went to a school in Indianapolis called North Central. And back then we were like one of the top 10 of the country, of the nation, when it came to college prep schools. So I went to a very, very good school, and we were very prepared to go to college. And I did some things that I was no longer at that school at that point, and had to go to a city school. One of the best experiences of my life, but also one of the worst experiences of my life. It was one of the best because the classes I took, I was getting all A's. I mean, I'm like, what?
You were advanced from the previous school, yeah.
Yeah. And so not only that, the teachers were so happy that I showed up and that I was happy. And they were like, I was like, Okay, now before the teachers hated me and I was struggling and they didn't understand why I didn't understand stuff. Now I have teachers embracing me and super happy and welcome to class and being the teacher's pet, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like I lowered my standards so low because I didn't have to study anymore. I could just show up and just kind of sort of do something and pass. How do you get around that when you're in a culture that does that?
Think about this. Most professional athletes, and I'm sure Dean was an example of this, that make it to that level. First off, they have superior athletic abilities. They've got elite coaching from Pee Wee all the way to pro. They've got a entitlement ingrained spirit that says you can't do no wrong because you're such a gifted athlete. And
Oh, that's
so,
funny you said that. Hold that thought real quick.
okay,
And he talks about that in one of the chapters, one of the
okay,
first six
see,
chapters.
this is
I
this
love
is
it.
textbook.
I love it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And so now you've got all of this going. If you do something bad and wrong, then you've got this culture that's going to come in and whitewash it and make it look like it never happened. So okay, so I read the book and then it said, and this is what. So this child, and he's normally it comes from this difficult childhood where either there's not enough money or there's a single parent or there's no parenting at all or there's such extreme poverty. So all these things are impelling him and pushing him. You're going to get out of this. You're going to become a super athlete and make the $1 million contract, buy your mama a house, and be set for the rest of your life. So that's where the pain or the push to become that super athlete. Well, the problem is this young man or this young woman is now thrust into a high stakes, high profile athletic career with money coming out the yang yang, and they don't know. So they do things that they think are compensating for their lack during that childhood, but now they're making bad decisions. Now they're making they're doing things that are inappropriate and not preparing them for longevity or for the big ride of their life. So I think that in answer to the question, those adverse childhood experiences that cause them to want to get out of the bad situation puts them into another, if not more difficult situation. Because when you have money and you spend it all and you don't have money no more, I was reading this recently. A former NFL player was arrested for armed robbery. Why? Because now he's used to having multiple millions. He could just, I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini, I'm gonna buy a townhouse, I'm gonna take everybody out and pay for everybody, go to Ruth Chris. The bills just keep popping up. But you think you have an endless supply of revenue, and that revenue is just gonna, if you get injured, if you get traded, if you get pulled back where you just benched, and now your money and your contract and everything at some point it's going to end. There was I wrote a book, or did a book for a gentleman, former NFL player, and it's called When the Cheering Stops. What happens when you're out there every day? Just you're the man, the accolades, the claps are going on, and then it stops because you're either traded, you're injured, you're no longer in the league or in that system. So the fun stop, the money stops, but also the accolades and that whole treatment stops. Preparation to get beyond the gridiron, beyond the basketball court. What happens when you transition from where you are to your next? And that next, if you're not properly prepared, you can fall on your face and be flattened. Those are the types of things that we have to look at. And as parents, we need to prepare our children to be able to mitigate those types of situations.
And
That
as a,
was a little deep, wasn't it?
it was very deep. As a parent who is not very literate themselves, what do you do?
Oh, like boy, yeah. They're not literate themselves. They don't know they can't really give any advice because they're as much of a child as their child. So they love them and they're gonna mollycoddle them. But at some point, when those type of revenues become available, then you need a financial mentor to help you position yourself. Well, you look at now Magic Johnson, of course, he made more money than a lot of players, and Michael and all these high profile players. But they got money coaches in. Shaq is hanging with no, Jay-Z is hanging with Warren Buffett. Why? Because he's getting that he's getting that mentorship to say, hey, don't just be a flash in the pan. Have this become generational. There are things that you can take so that when you pass, and you will pass, that the money doesn't pass to the state. That you can give it unencumbered to your offspring and to your family or to your loved ones through a trust. You know, the Rockefellers have developed. It's called a waterfall. So you but those are the types of things that we have to be looking at for generational healing.
Wow. How do you feel like, I know you have a good relationship with, I'm going to give him a shout out here, to Bill, the money man Salisbury. How do you feel about having relationships and collaborations with people who can help you to do that, and teaching your children? Did you work with your children, not necessarily at the beginning, but when you learned more about finances, did you work with them and try to help them to get on the right path so they could have that legacy, so that they could build that financial future?
In order to do that, you've got to have been in that child's life enough where they can trust you. The greatest currency in the world right now is trust. If I don't trust you, I'm not.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Say that again. The greatest
I
what?
said the greatest currency in the world is trust. If I go to my trust account and this morning you said we're going to be on this, we start at 10 o'clock. I was there at 9:50.
Mhm.
Why? Because trust. I trust you. I respect you, and so I'm going to be. My word is my bond. So I put some trust deposits in. So you said, okay, I'm going to bring Dr. Mack on my show, and I'm kind of blowing up, and there's some things that I can help him out, and I really am willing to. But I trust him that he's going to come on my show. He's not going to act ignorant. He's going to bring value. So that trust. So when I came on the show, there was already a significant withdrawal in the trust account where you said, I qualify. Well, that's what's happening in the lives of our youth and young adults, that they are learning how to make deposits into the trust account and to be able to make withdrawals from that trust account. Because often we trust people that we shouldn't trust.
Mm.
As youth and young, as kids, that trust factor where you have an adult or a family member or a friend that comes in and betrays that trust. And so we have so many of those backstories of molestation, arrest. They got molested, arrested, bested, tested, and they don't know what to do. So we have to find out a way to be able to mitigate those dramatic and traumatic incidents from childhood and give people a roadmap to be able to effectively operate in a society that's trust-based.
No, I love it. I love that. The greatest currency in the world is trust. I love. I'm gonna use that one. I'm gonna take
I
that
made that up on the fly.
I believe you too. You're so good at that. That's why
Uh,
you are as successful as you are in so many different avenues. The one things when we talked about our children and moving on, I didn't grow up knowing about finances. Daddy had money, mommy had money, but they didn't teach me or my sister or brother anything about money. All we knew is you're supposed to save it. And that didn't make sense to me because I like living a quality of life. It didn't make sense to me that you save your money and you save it to save it. You're just saving money, but I want to use my money. So I didn't have that financial teaching. And as I grew older, I would make a lot of
well,
money, but I would
uh,
spend it. Go ahead.
you asked earlier about Bill, the real deal Salisbury. Bill has a financial literacy platform with his mustard seed marketing, and I've watched him over the years. He's been consistent about bringing that forward, and his message, his mission, and his mantra is that people understand financial literacy, because once you do, then you'll stop doing things that are detrimental to your financial destiny.
Exactly, exactly. And once I learned a little bit about how to do that, it started when I kept failing algebra. I could not fail out. I could not pass. I could not pass. So finally, the teacher passed me with like a D minus, just enough so I could pass the class.
No.
Yeah, go get out of here. You've taken the class 3 times. This was in high school, 3 times. And when I went to college, it's like, oh no. They told me that was the last thing. I dreaded
Not
it.
again.
Johnny, I'm telling you, I dreaded it. I waited till I had almost all my credit hours, and it's like, okay, I got to have algebra to pass. You had to have it, and I ended up taking it, and I dropped out. I dropped out like 5 times. I spent thousands of dollars dropping out of algebra class. So finally, I had a teacher, and he was like,
because that doesn't figure up a goal.
right. This one teacher in particular, he said, the final's coming up. I don't know how you're going to pass this. And then every night he was with me. He's like, Candy, I don't know why you can't get this. He just nobody understood. My father tried me. He was a math genius. So finally, my daughter, mind you, who was only like, I can't tell you, she was like, oh gosh, so tiny. She said, Mom, why don't you try putting it into dollars? And I'm like, huh? She said, you have no problems doing your dollars when your businesses, when you're doing your bank accounts. She said, you have no problems doing that. She said, you add and subtract in a real weird way, because she couldn't figure out in my mind how I do that, but I would always come up with the right answer. She said, why don't you do that in algebra? She said, all those linear equations, this put dollar signs and pennies and nickels. And John, passed that final with an A+. Yeah, passed my math class with an A+. When I put it into this day, I do that. I put everything into dollars. So different people learn different ways. And when you do that, once I learned that, and then Bill, the real deal, Bill, yeah, I love that, the real deal. I always called him the money guy, Salisbury. He's got so many different names because he's way up, he knows those finances. And we would talk back and forth about stocks. So every time I make a trade, we go back and forth. We say, okay, get this one, jump this one, do that one. And I taught my children. And my son was able to pay off some college loans and some other things because I taught him how to do his money. So it does go generational. So when it goes to literacy and what Dean was talking about, because one thing, I haven't finished the book, I'm only on chapter 8 right now, but I think it will probably say something in that about money, because I know that he didn't do a real good job with his money, managing it when he's in those young early years. He had got a car from a situation that he was involved in, etc. And that wasn't a point at that point. But now, as he went back and went from being illiterate all those years to becoming degreed and getting his Magna Cum Laude master's degree, he does, I mean, gosh, the guy, I don't know if he's a millionaire or not. He's never told me, but I know he does very, very well financially. And he is helping people and putting things out and giving and donating and doing a lot of things. So, and that teaching didn't come from parents. Now, wait a minute, I shouldn't say that because I'm not finished with the book. But at this point, as of chapter 8, I don't see any financial responsibility at that point. But reading, it's amazing how he got so far.
Without being able to read.
Without being able to read. I couldn't imagine. I just could not imagine. And seeing his story has showed me a different light.
That's
everything we do. Johnny, everything we do is reading. Everything.
You have to look at the signs. You have to read the menu. Just to be able to think about the weight of trying to disguise and hide the reality that you really can't read. That's a mental stress stew pot that is enough to break you. Candy, it's the culture. Now, I'm not saying that the entire circumference of mankind isn't experiencing these same issues, but culturally, Americans of African descent, there's a culture within a culture. There's a book written in the early 1800s called Imperium and Imperial. And it talked about the underground culture that exists within America. But in our culture, that player is giving a lot of leeway, and he's giving a lot of responsibility and a lot of visibility. And so culturally, he's got to dress nice. He's got to wear the right jewelry. He's got to have the biggest house. He's got to have the fastest and the most expensive car. So he's walking around showing off to the culture, telling the culture, I'm good enough. I'm good. The Lord told me a couple of days ago. He says, you already are enough. You don't need no more to be. You're enough already. And so most people are focused on having people, well, the culture is focused on having people look at you and judge you worthy, to judge you valuable, to validate you based on the external, what you have, what you do, where you go, all of those features right there. So consequently, it puts us into a fake-minded mindset. Social media and the internet doesn't help because now we're visible 24/7 to the entire planet. So how we operate within this new ecosystem that is the world, in this new economy, where even the current values that we understand about money have been challenged. We're in a new era where AI is rewriting and rescripting reality. And then we go back to Dean Tolson. This is a young man, just like so many across the world, especially in the nation and in the culture. This is a young man who grew up and was just had so much skill, so much ability that they were able to overlook his disability or his lack of ability, that he couldn't read. And if he couldn't read, then he was kept out of so much that was happening within the outer culture. Candy, that's a program, all that's a whole show all by itself to talk about that little nuance right there and how to get around it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's interesting you say that because there was one job that he mentions in chapter 7 of the book that he did want. It was a job that he did want, but there's one part of it that required him to read, and he turned it down because he knew he couldn't. The should if you as because once you become an adult, once you leave the school, and eventually he did, he left, he graduated, and no, he didn't. I'm sorry, he didn't graduate. He went on, and some other things happened. You got to read the book to find that out, guys. You're like, oh, she just started to say something that she
Read
didn't
the book.
say. Read the book.
Oh, this is
The
so mysterious. So you gotta read the book. What's happening next?
right,
Read the
right,
book.
right. the should Can you really blame somebody else? I mean, it's easy to blame other people for any downfall or downcoming that we have in the decisions that we make. But can you really blame somebody else if you made the decision to take this instead of this? If you made the decision to take cherry pie instead of apple pie, and then you find out your cherry pie is rotten, can you really blame the people that made it? If they told you this is not a good pie, you need to take the apple. But can you say, well, it's not my fault that I'm illiterate? They allow, can you do that?
The first step, and I think the dean had to have taken it in order to have the courage to go back to school and get to learn to read. But the first step is acceptance and accountability. That you accept the fact that you are. See, we can go back and blame our parents. We can blame the person that molested us. We can blame the cop that arrested us. We can blame the school for testing us and passing us anyway. All of those are issues that everyone faces in life. But the mirror moment, that magic mirror moment, when you look in the mirror and say, yeah, they had something to do with it. They had all these people were complicit. There was a big conspiracy against me. But when you come and realize, hey, the only constant in everything that I've dealt with in my life has been me. Okay. You can blame your mom and them, but see, the blame game creates the shame game, and it gets you out of the game. So you're stuck with the blame instead of saying, okay, I accept responsibility. It's my fault, even if it ain't, but it's my responsibility to get past this. See, the things that get us stuck, that get us triggered and cemented and prevent us from being able to go to next levels is the thing that controls us. When you control that didactic, or when you control that aspect of the emotional aspect of being stuck into a point that you're not happy with, that's when growth occurs.
Mm, mm, wow, wow.
That'll make you say, hmm.
Because how many people are stuck? Millions are stuck stuck because they
refuse to be responsible.
yeah,
It's on you. I looked at these kids today, and they want to get paid, but they
yes
don't
they
want
do.
to work.
Yes they
Okay,
do, and they don't.
how you go? And so there's a failure from multiple sources. The school didn't teach you, hey, if you when you get paid if you go to work. Your parents didn't teach you, hey, just like you said, your mom and dad had money, but they didn't teach you how to get it, how to be responsible with it, how to make it grow, why you saving it. All of these, that financial literacy piece, and it's not just in our culture; it's across cultures. But some cultures have figured out how to like when you look at the Jewish culture and you look at some cultures where money is relegated is explained in such a way that you understand it, and then you have to reset your money thermostat. Most people have the thermostat set maybe at 60 degrees and it's cold, and they want more warmth. You have to reset that thermostat. Or if it's too hot out and you're sitting in a hot old baking house, you need to lower the thermostat so that that the temperature can be comfortable. Most people are comfortable at a thermostat setting that if their thermostat is set at 50 or $100,000, and now they're trying to double that and make and be that seven figure or high six figure earner, they have to increase their thermostat, because otherwise, once they get past it, self-sabotaging sequences will trigger into place and just bring you back down to it. But consequently, if you lose everything, and your money thermostat is set here, you'll be able to automatically come back up because you know the principles and the steps
Yes,
required
yes,
to go there.
yes. Yeah, amen to that. Yes, yes. I can shout and just scream from the mountaintops with that one. I had made a commitment years ago, and this reminds me of what Dean says in his book, Power Forward, that all of my friends at that point, my circle, when I lived in the ghetto, they would always tell me I would have dreams. I would tell them we sit out on our little porches and drink our whatever we would be drinking. And usually it was me drinking water and them drinking Mogan David and other things. But they would always say, "You and your dreams. You need to quit your dreaming. You live in this fantasy world." And they would every day I'd ask the same question. I mean, answer same as they would always ask me. So, Candy, what are you going to be doing next year? I said, I'm going to be working so I can pay cash for my house I'm going to buy. Candy, you're not gonna be here. You're gonna be stuck with us. You're gonna be here 30 years from now, just like we're gonna be here. You ain't going nowhere. And you always said, I said, nah. I said, I'm gonna buy me a house.
I'm
And you're gonna
about
pay
to get
cash.
out of here.
And I'm gonna pay cash. And I worked and I worked and I worked and I did it. And I sacrificed in other areas. And me and my children sat in our little plastic white table with the different red, green, yellow, and blue legs that they still remember to this day. And I did it. And we sat at that same table for several years. And everybody, why won't you buy your kids? Your kids need a table. No, they don't. We're perfectly fine sitting at our little tiny little plastic table.
Mhm. Because
And
this connectivity.
yep. And guess what? I bought my house and I paid cash. And it went on. Dean says that he talks about this with basketball.
Mhm.
His eye was on the prize. He said, I am going to play for the NBA at every single stage of his life, every single year, everything he did, even the things that he hated doing. And you could feel how much he hated doing some of the things that he had to do. He still said at the end, but I kept thinking, I'm going to play for the NBA. And then he would say at certain points, I can't wait till I finish with this so I can play in the NBA. And then when he went to the military, he was so glad at that final day that he could go back to Arkansas. He's like, now I can continue my NBA dream. And it was like, man, he never stopped because he barely ever even mentioned basketball through the entire chapter. And you never even thought about it, John. That again goes back to what you were saying about how you bring somebody into the story. Everything he talked about in that story, you are with him through his drill sergeant. You're with him through the fight. You're with him through getting beat. You're with him through the mistake he made. You are right there in the story that even you forget that he's trying to make it to the NBA. It's like,
Yeah. There's a that's stupid, but oh no, that makes sense because he's trying to get to here. Langston Hughes said, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams
if
die,
dreams die
life is a
like a
broken winged
broken
bird
winged
that
bird,
cannot
they
fly."
can't.
And so that's
That's
the beauty when you think about the history of the African American community in America, legalized apartheid, segregation, slavery, all of those issues right there, not something that we want to start a new dialogue on and point the blame at, y'all was horrible, you treated us like, no, that's not, see, if we get caught up in that, that kind of prolongs the agony of that reality. But instead, we need to focus on the positive alternative is, where do we go from here?
Mm.
I think there was a song that says, and where do we go from here? Still searching for that blue jean fairy queen. Okay, we
Love it. Come on, keep on going, Johnny.
I always want, I said, if I hit one note, I'm calling Motown quitting everything I'm doing. But that's the tapestry and the story of our life that we're looking at. The culture is there, the reality is there, the content is there, but how we form the narrative, how we control and shape that narrative determines what our next step in life. And Dean looked at that and says, okay, I can control my own narrative. I don't have to be here. I am an illiterate, ex ball player that just a ball head that brings nothing to the table except that I could bounce a ball. But instead, he said, there's something within me. There's always been that ability within me. There's always been that intellect within me, that ability within me to be able to compete at the highest levels. But this piece of paper was preventing me from being able to compete at that level. So I'm going to go back and get that piece of paper. Most people get that piece of paper when they're in their elementary school. But I went through elementary school bouncing a basketball and not being able to read. I went to high school. I went through college and even played pro ball as an illiterate. And that it probably cost me more money than I can probably imagine. But that was then. That past does not have to define me, and it doesn't keep me stuck. It doesn't confine me or define me. Instead, it refined me to the point that now, I realized the value of education so much that I not only learned to read, I not only went back to college, but I went back again to post secondary and to the graduate level, got a degree, magna cum laude, and now I'm out here impacting the lives of people that don't realize what I finally had to realize, that it all begins when we start reading. It's not only fundamental, it is imperative.
Mm, 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 mm. Wow. Wow.
We need to come back and finish this up and do this again because there's so much to unpack here. And by then, you will have read another couple of chapters.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This has been very good, and as I'm glad you mentioned that because our time is up. John, thank you so much for coming on today. This
On
and giving your words and thoughts about what he's doing because a lot of the world has not heard of him. I was speaking to him once, and he mentioned about people knowing who he is, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm thinking, and I mentioned this to him as well. Not everybody knows who you are. As much as a lot of pro players would like to think, because they're on national TV, they're in limelight. Not everybody knows, and not everybody knows the story. There's so many people out like that are like myself and others who they simply look at an NBA player as an NBA player. Nothing special. It's another type of sports player. But when we put this out here and let people know that there's somebody out here that really has a heartwarming, heart-wrenching story from the inside and has overcome and is making a phenomenal difference and significance in lives, it's worth putting out there. So guys, I want to make sure that you guys grab that book. And John, you have a book that I want to say something else before we leave because we are really out of time. This book is, I had this up here just a second ago. Can you just briefly, what is this book right here? The $18 Entrepreneur.
Well, in networking, and this is a brand building book concept that I used to build a network. So it was $18 to get involved in this network, and so we showed you for $18 that there are steps that you can take that you can leverage your income to the next level. The book I want to recommend to people is called A Guide to Great Goals, and it breaks goals down into that word GREAT. That a great goal is gigantic. A great goal is ridiculous. It's enormous. It's awesome, and it's transformational. And that book talks about the SMART goal. Is, of course, it's time. All the aspects of what a SMART goal. Everybody knows about SMART goals. But I said that the other type of goal is a safe goal that is small and fairly easy. But in a guide to great goals, we said we want you to start writing and putting out great goals. So if you have a goal that's bigger than yourself, often we get so caught up into doing what we can do on our own, and that doesn't require the divine intervention. But when you have a goal that's bigger than yourself, that requires a team to make that dream become a reality, that's when you start elevating and bringing in the collaboration. I call it collaboratunity, when collaboration and opportunity meet. So that a guide to great goals, you can get it on Amazon. It will help you to be able to write that goal that's bigger than yourself. And when you write something and focus on something that's bigger than yourself, what happens? Now you grow into the person capable of accomplishing that goal or dream. Most of us, think that we can do it based on who we are. Success is that you expand yourself to who you need to be to accomplish your great goal.
All right. I love that. And guys, you can get that book right here. If you click on the link that's scrolling right here on the bottom of the screen, you can get the Guide to Great Goals by Johnny Magnificent Mack.
Magnificent. That was my clearing call. Listen, I'm not even going to prolong this any longer because I like to communicate, but sometimes I've learned this: the mind will only receive as much as the seat will endure.
Amen to that. Love that. Okay, John L. Mack, thank you again so much for coming on here today. Thank you for being a part of this stream and all the things that we're putting out here. You're doing great work, and I so appreciate you, my friend. Have a great day, and we will see you on the next show. All right.
Namaste.